Namaskar and welcome to this exciting episode of Sattology debunking mythology. Sattology means science of truth, the study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, which means science or study of fake, lie, or imagination. The word mythology has been so loosely used with so many native cultures that now it has become the connotation it has acquired that it is ancient history. And many big scholars keep using it. But if you look at the real etymological meaning of mythology, which means science or study of myth, which is means a fake lie or imagination. So I have very special guest today. He has written 5 books and he has spoken, and his books are sold across, even in Kashmir, Srinagar. Also, I saw the recent photograph where his books were sold over there. He's an Indian American author from Tennessee. Let us welcome Sri Sharad Mohan ji.
Good morning, America. Thank you, Adit.
So one of the things I like your hat and your shirt is showing the Tennessee flavor. So one question I have is like you recently in the Republican convention you went and you met different politicians and you also gifted them your books and you asked them very important questions where they you were looking for some policy answers because as an author you asked them those questions. So, what was the answer they gave, and did they satisfy you? Can you relate that incident for us?
Okay. This was probably a week or a week before on Thursday. Um, as for the viewers, I am a Republican supporter. As of today, so I do go for some convention, etc. Whenever I get a call. So this was near to my house, so I went to attend that function. It was attended by Mark Green, congressman from Tennessee, and few other folks. It was a town hall kind of meeting, good gathering. Nice, always nice to catch up with the people. A lot of people with multiple experience from different backgrounds. So when I met Mark Green, I was given a chance to ask a question, and and he has a pretty good background. He comes from a military background, and looks like he was a doctor also, and then right now a congressman. A lot of people, as you know, Tennessee people had mostly questions regarding the farming related situation, especially with the Russia and Ukraine war, the lack of availability of the fertilizers, which comes from those countries. So most of the question was around that. So when I got a chance, I said, more than a question, I'll have an observation because I'm an author, and as a voter for Republican, these are some of the concern and observation which the people feel. And as a congressman, let me hear what your viewpoint. So one of the question was regarding the war. My question was, okay, America had to take a stand because we cannot allow the communist or the expansionist regime to just like that change the world order. So in that regard, whatever the government of America is doing, people are behind it. But then for a party like Republican Party, why the party is looking like a copycat of Democrat without asking any question, without asking ETA, without asking the war support plan. You are just approving any bill which President Biden is bringing. And this was at that time they had just announced for 40 billion additional support to Ukraine. $40 billion is a lot of money. If you earn that money with your effort, your whole life will go. However, good billionaire you are, or however enterprising you are, it's not a small money. But for the politician, that taxpayer money is written as a check for somebody just based on their whims and fancy. There is no congressional debate. There is nothing like that. Even if they have a debate, it's a very it's not live telecast to the Americans to understand who is speaking what, right? So, what is the point of having a democracy when some people will make a decision on our behalf? Maybe For other Americans, it may not be that big issue. For me, it is an issue, and I will definitely not like to see my hard-earned money, taxpayer money, go like this. So my question was, if you are supporting a war, why did you ask the Biden government, give us the success rate? What are you achieving? Give us a timeline when you think the war will be ended. Based on the money we are putting on Ukraine, because it's a 40 billion is a lot of money for Ukraine. And then I said that Republican Party should have their. So he was a little offended. He said, "Well, if you're not supporting a war," he just took it supporting and non-supporting. I said, "It's not a case of not supporting war. Just because you come from military background doesn't mean you are patriotic and others are not patriotic." Okay, so don't say we are not supporting war. We are supporting war, but writing a blank check just like that will not suffice. You have to be answerable to the voter. So probably this type of question, I think American politicians have not seen, because they are used to having a very different audience. But the country is changing, demography is changing, and brain is also coming with the voters. So they will ask you questions. The second question was regarding the wokeism and in the school and over liberal values coming in the very early stage, when a third grader is being told about the race thing, about the gender thing. People are on the LinkedIn and other portal. People are in the parenthesis they're writing he, she, or others for with their name. I mean, that kind of sensitivity is okay in a corporate world, but at third grade level, school level, this type of experimentation, and we all know what's happening in Florida, this with the Disney. So any change should be gradual and should be natural, rather than somebody from top, some elitist or somebody forcing it. That's not how a democracy will work. And there will be a pushback if you do that. Whether it's a good issue or a bad issue, that's a separate debate. So these are the things I brought. Then I said about inflation. I said my $40 billion is going for a Ukraine without any timeline, without any output. Now, what about inflation? I took my family recently to Purdue, and I had to fill the gas tank, which I earlier used to fill for $60. In a state like Tennessee, I am paying $92. That's a lot of money. And then same thing goes with the food. Same thing goes with the any other thing. It's like 30% increment in your overall expenditure on the same item just few months back. And even the baby food is in acute shortage in this country. So are we moving to a state of a third world country where even the essentials like food is not available, and available with the highest inflation rate of an all time high inflation rate. So these were some of the questions which congressman couldn't answer. Very all he gave me was a card, some photo session with the books, and some normal talk. So, but hopefully, I will get an answer from him. But this is what had happened. So I thought I'll share with you all.
Generally, we have seen like most of the American politicians, they only work on prepared speeches, right? Did you feel that your question actually foxed him, and he was trying to evade your question?
Yes, it looked like he did. He was never, first of all, well, in a state of Tennessee, it's the demography is a little different. So seeing a brown Indian American, a proud Hindu American. That's how I introduced myself to the audience, and people were very receptive. They liked it. Somebody came later during the meet and they said, "Hey, I like Indian food. I like this and that." Like trying to make me comfortable. I said, "Hey, this is my house. I don't need to be comfortable. I'm trying to make you guys comfortable." So they were a little taken aback, and then. But then they like the approach, but again, but not everybody is like that. But because we have been the part of the system, so we understand the psyche and respect the diverse views. So he was definitely taken aback. He didn't like the question. First question he said, he couldn't even understand the question. So yeah.
I see a big, USCRF released a statement against India also. And even though we are not citizens of India, we are citizens of this country, but still we love India and we want to protect the interests of Indian government also, and at the same time protect the interests of American government. And generally, the one question gets asked, even to me, is even though I'm not a politician and I'm not uh, anyone who can be answerable to anything, is that why is India neutral? Did that question ever was asked to you ever?
No, this particular group never asked me that question, but that's a very relevant question with a lot of political people, both in Europe and in America. And a very detailed answer has been given by Dr. Jai Shankar, the Minister of External Affairs in India, in a recent Slovak interview, a 24 minutes video. I think I would request everybody, all the students who are listening, should search it. It's on the YouTube, 24 minutes video. Very beautiful answer, very cryptic answer. And now, as an Indian American, if somebody questions me, why are you supporting India in a situation where America is questioning means American politicians are not are questioning. Okay, this is not the question which America as a country or a constitution is questioning. If that thing comes, then we are all with America because that's the oath we have taken. But when the American politicians, and I'm referring to mostly the non Asian or Asian American or non Indian American or even blacks Americans. The question coming the way America, if you see the American, if you hear all the American debates and speeches and quotations mentioned in their congressional hearing and debates, they have glorified Mr. Winston Churchill as a great thinker, a great person, a great politician, a strategist. He may be, but as an Indian American, I get offended because as a person of color, I feel he was the biggest racist. Now, does that mean that America as a and Churchill was not an American citizen, though his wife was an American? So does that mean that if you support Churchill, you are against America? Or people can bring that kind of analogy, and I'll bring that kind of analogy. If you say that if you're supporting India on certain things, not certain things, I'm supporting on principle. And every Indian American should be proudly, even if you have a US citizen, you should proudly support that because you have to stand for what is right and wrong. It doesn't mean India and America. It's not a war. War is where you have to support the country, whichever country you have your citizenship and you have taken oath, keeping hand on your hand, then you should support. This is not a war. This is a discussion of what is wrong. Maybe American politicians are taking country to the wrong way, and we are trying to bring it back so that the country doesn't get affected. You have to understand who are your allies and who are your adversaries. That's You cannot have a same stick just because you are sitting on the driver's seat. This will not be same in the world. It will change very soon. The world order is changing. So as a proud Indian American, my duty is to see that my country is protected and its interests are long-term interests are taken care of. And with that, I definitely will support a lot of things which India is doing. And especially if you talk about humanity and America, and so India is not neutral. As per the Jayashankar, India is not sitting on the fence. India is sitting on its ground, which means if you are telling us not to buy, as per Jayashankar, not to buy the oil and gas from Russia, they give us the same cheaper alternative. If not, then India, which has 20% of the world population, every fifth person in the world is an Indian. How will and India is not a very rich economy like America, where it can print as many dollars you want. So in that situation, it has to feed its people. It has to see that the oil, the petrol or the gas price in India is directly proportional to the food price in India. So you cannot push 1/5 of the world population just because some politicians came and decided on some sanction on the oil. If you have to punish Russia, why doesn't everybody go and fight with Russia and bring it to flatten Russian ego, or rather Putin's ego, not Russian ego? That's what we are saying here, right? So if you're not doing that, you have a resource to wage this war for more than a year without considering the other part of the world, that is a problem. That's not what America is. We are the world leader. World leader means it's not self leader. We have to take care of the interest of the entire humanity. That's why America is a world leader. It's a very different democracy.
You know,
Yes.
one of the things which comes to the mind is like the Ukraine war. Suddenly, the Ukraine war has disappeared from American media. Suddenly, after $54 billion, and they sent the MRLS, multiple rockets launch system, and that has disappeared. And then is the media narrative clearly shows. I mean, the both sides of the media, I'm saying, left media and the right media, both of them try to cover up the US losses, and they try to project a US strength, both of the media, which is very, like, it doesn't look like an independent media. What is your viewpoint on that?
Well, with the coming of the digital world, I think media has definitely been used more by the politicians or the ruling establishment to have their narrative go more. Uh, uh, since Donald Trump election and his becoming the 45th president of America, I personally have seen, I mean, it was before also in Clinton era, but it was not this obvious. I have seen a clear cut divide between the left and right media. CNN, MSNBC, the print media like your New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, they have all taken one stand, irrespective of whatever the truth is. They are very much sold out on that. Similarly, on the other side of the Fox and other channel, they have their own narrative. So in America, media is definitely not giving you the balanced perspective. That's my view. So what is happening in Russia, without supporting Russia, we should know what's happening. Are we winning the war? Are we prolonging the war for some other reason? To bleed Russia? Are we trying to bleed the entire world by prolonging the war? Because giving $54 billion to Ukraine will prolong the war. Now, Ukraine will never win the war on its own, and America will never put its foot on the ground, boots on the ground. So, where are we heading? Nobody is talking as a big statesman. Putin should American has American politicians have so much reach. They could reach out to different section in Russia to make them see the reality, and there has to be military offense. There has to be a diplomacy. Diplomacy is totally zero with Joe Biden, because he is unfortunately he is suffering. He is not fit. We have selected a president who is not fit health wise, and we due respect to his health issue. This is not a democracy. This is same thing happened in the Mughal era, or the kingship, where incompetent king would be made the king, and the entire family or some court courtier would be running from behind the scene. That's not what democracy is, and unfortunately, America is going through that. So, media in America, I will never trust any side for the real news. So that's true. Yes.
If you ask, like, you and I both interact with a lot of Americans on the ground. If you ask a local American, like general people around here, we are all Americans, but if you ask a European origin American and you talk about India, the general viewpoint is snake charmer. Still today, country of snake charmer, very undeveloped. and maybe the way the American media doesn't give you any information about any other country. And really informed Americans know really about India. So don't you think like that bias is also present in the politicians when they see India? Because they see India from a point of view of that they can pressurize India to accept anything they want to do. So and that mindset carries forth in their conversations, comes forth in the policy making, like a 23-year-old person making a policy for India. That's what was the policy like. Even that junior NSA, Dilip Singh, he was also similar mindset. What an average American thinks, what is taught in their schools and colleges. What is your view on that?
So that's correct. The perception will change. This was what 20, 25 years back, they were treating Chinese also like that before China became a very big power. So the whole perception now has changed. If you see the old Hollywood movies, the way Chinese culture and civilization was portrayed, um, it will know if you see today they are direct racism. I've seen some of those movies. The word used by the actors against the Chinese um, character were totally not acceptable in today's world, especially when America is talking about wokeism and CRT and all those things. So the problem lies in the American schooling. They haven't changed their curriculum, keeping in mind the stature of America as a global power. It's still driven by some, I don't know who, but the education system in America is definitely not catered to making an international informed student or citizen in this country. And from this crowd, you get politicians, whether it's from Ivy League like Howard and all. It's just a name. The content is missing, especially in the social studies, political science. I'm not talking about the science. You can create different model and you can do a peer review and you become a top notch because of money power. But social studies is not taking you to Mars and Jupiter. It's only dividing the society. Science is a different ballgame. Social studies and political science is a different ballgame. And America is literally illiterate on the global affairs. So a country like India or China anyway has made its mark. It's 20 years of struggle for them. But for India, which is a civilizational country, almost same as China in every respect, in fact, older than China from civilizational perspective, this America or American politician or education system does not understand, and that has to change. Unfortunately, the Indian Americans who we have seen so far, even though number is increasing in both the administration, whether it's the White House or any other life, they have still not become ambassador of their civilizational background. They are mostly content with the position they get, and they are running the same race like any materialistic person will run, which is to have an American dream of house, car, that's all, and good life, some vacation. That's all they are looking for, but they have to be ambassador of their civilizational background, whichever country they are, which is missing. And that's where this Vijay Singh or whoever, if you see the recent Minority Commission report of 2021, where they have given some harsh remark on India. Mr. Anthony Blinken was standing and he made an Indian American to read that. And this Indian American was a guy who was born in America, Wyoming, Rahat Hussain, a Muslim guy. And he is being made to talk about the Muslim minority in India means Muslim. There is no other minority like Parsi or Sikh, who should be actually called minority. But America, for Americans and for Indians also, minority means Muslim. Now, Muslims are integral part of India for a very long time. So Indians would not like to hear from any other people how India should because it, treat them, or because they are directly talking about the Indian citizen. Now, these type of politics were used by the British because British were always very cunning. that's fact also, and that's also the reason. If you see any colonial history across the world where British were involved, they say they were very cunning because they used to divide the society, and they used to get into the nerve of understanding the fault lines and all those things. America was never like that. America was built totally against all those system from British. But seeing Anthony Blinken using an Indian American, that also a Muslim, it's basically to pass a judgment on India on the Muslim related issues. It's basically creating a huge anger, and this type of cunning diplomacy will fail. And that's what Indian EM gave back, saying that, we are also taking note of the racism in America with the Indian Americans. We are seeing the gun related killing of the minor students, kids. School is not safe, atrocities on the blacks, etc. Now, that is no business for India to make comment on America. I mean, I will never support that. But when you are throwing stone and living in a glass house, you should be ready for the repercussion. So that's what I'm saying. As a proud Indian American, we should not allow these politicians to screw up the relationship with the ally, which is going to be as strong as China by 2047. And, America cannot have enemies like Russia, China, and India and survive as a superpower. That's a very, very idiotic way of thinking, and the policymakers should understand this better.
Somehow it again, like Europeanism is taking over USA. You and I have discussed many times, and then somehow they are using the same philosophy of the British over the third world countries. Look at Mexico, look at India. Similar comments are there, similar comments, where the US officials, they think, I mean, there's some kind of a sense of superiority. It's just a sense of superiority. They're not superior. But if you look at the demography and the number of people who are electing the American representatives, even though it's such a large land, America just fits into Uttar Pradesh and one or two other states of India. The entire population of USA is just Uttar Pradesh plus some other states of India, two or three more states. So if you consider just the demography, so people may not understand. You and I, you have written a book, I have written a book. We understand the reasons why. So why this mindset of superiority comes in? Maybe it's because of the World War II, or because of other military expeditions, or the strength of the military. Where does this come from in your view?
So you have also written a book, Aditya ji. Here I will a little bit turn the question on you rather. So your Gold, Glory, and God, right? If I am naming it correctly. So you have done a very deep research from the core of the problem, how this society evolved. Maybe you can share that view. That will give answer to this, and if time permits, I will add a few things to this.
You're right. Like if you look at the colonial history of USA, it's an occupied country. European settlers occupied this land, and somehow we have a constitution now. Again, the constitution was borrowed from Native Americans, and we will see that the same mindset of which British had, and we can all safely say now that the British defeated the other European colonial powers, and that's how English is the main language here, not the German or the French or the Dutch. And we see the same mindset growing, where India is a land which already we managed one time, or Mexico was a colony, we defeated Mexico. And in fact, the 1/3 of the United States was Mexico at one point in 1846. So that mindset is still continuing, and that is being taught in the schools also. If you look at the textbooks also, Krishna created the caste system. It's like a complete blasphemy of Sanatan Dharma, complete blasphemy. And it is being taught to a small kid. And same way the British taught over to their people, Macaulay taught, and we went to civilize the world. And that's why all the Hollywood movies show an American hero saving India, saving the poor people of India, and saving the poor people of Mexico. So this is the historical background. But on the political side, in your book, you have mentioned about the 1947, you predicted US-India war. So from the political side, what do you see?
So from the political side, America, all the baby boomers are all the people from the 60s generation who are still or before, The people who are actually making the difference here, policymakers, they have never seen scarcity in this country like the other countries have grown. Even Europe was poor at many times. If you see, there are a lot of movies like Heidi and all, where you will be surprised. The perception of a white guy always rich, not starving for a single loaf of bread. Um, there are so many. So America has not seen all those things. America always had, this land is blessed. It's a great land with the natural resources and hardworking people. The founding fathers made this country really great. So Americans, on a large, never saw scarcity. So they do not understand that the empathy is missing. So to understand the other part of the world, or other civilization, that is missing. Second thing is, this is very young country, young in sense, even though it is a 400 years or something to but what 300 400 years, certainly. So but they do not have a civilized, they do not have any cultural thing to show. Everything was imported from Europe, right? So the attachment with the land is in a different scale. The attachment attachment is mainly with the wealth they created, the American dream, big houses, huge plot, cars. Right, this is what America is. This is, but when they're interacting with other countries, there are a lot of other historical perspective involved, which America is missing. And so the politicians here are product of that setup, so they do not understand. And once this they just don't know how to react. See, when the supply chain issue happened during pandemic, uh, what did Americans bought most? They didn't buy food. They didn't, their politician didn't go to different countries to make sure that the supply chain, if it is impacted because of China's production house stopping, can there be any other way? Can we develop something else from different countries, like entire Latin American countries, India, Africa, is available? But what they did was, they here we bought maximum gun in 2020, so the approach is very different in understanding, and that is what it is leading to. So in my book, what I have mentioned is, it's high time when people of color gets into the policy making, because we are tired of this very vanilla, quote, vanilla and homogeneous way of thinking of any problem. The problem has to be solved. Human problem cannot be a vanilla out of box thinking. It needs empathy. Empathy means it has to be sensitive to that level. Now, in technology, you are doing all kind of sentiment analytics, and you track everybody and do marketing. But when it comes to policy making, you just still sticking to the vanilla policy, which is, certain folks think certain way because they think this is their fiefdom. That will not be allowed with the new people, new demography. And I think that's where I was trying to talk to the politician, that your thought process has to change. Right now I'm not in your position, but time will soon come when I means people of color will be on that side of the table. And America will be a very different country. America will always be a great country because it's a naturally blessed. It has done a lot of good things to the world. So America should always be a leader, but with a different hand. The power should change. So that's my perspective.
One last question I have is, so Jai Shankar, Indian foreign minister, has been very strong, and the Indian other ministers are also representing India very strongly. But the problems in whenever whatever media shows in Kashmir may not be the real thing, but it does change the perception of the State Department in the US. Or State Department is, because it's managed by small kids who have no experience whatsoever. And so, and also their boss is also a small kid, because he doesn't understand when to speak or when not to speak. So what do you say? Can India manage its media output to some extent, just like the US manages? US manages media so well. I mean, when it came to Ukraine war, both Fox News and CNN were saying the same thing, even though
Yep.
they were criticizing each other, but saying the same thing: let the war go on, give on more weapons. They were not even scared because they knew that Russia is not going to attack US. They know that. So and they are using Ukraine as a scapegoat. Both were on the same page. Can India also manage the media like that, or do you suggest like that, or not?
I definitely suggest that. It's a fifth generation war. Media is a very important tool in a narrative setting, and especially in a country like India. India is learning a lot of things which a lot of people are not learning, even though it will look very ugly. The I will like to bring the recent Kanpur, Uttar Pradesh is a state in India, one of the biggest state of India, where the population is almost 70% of America, like 250 million people live in just one state of India. So there was a Kanpur riot based on some fact checker slash fake checker or whatever, some group run by a gentleman who belongs from a minority community. So he said that the Prophet, a wrong reference was given to the Prophet Muhammad. And henceforth, the person who made that statement during a TV debate, ruling party's national spokesperson, they put all kind of blasphemy things, and asking for bounty on her head, and all those kind of thing happened, and that resulted in a right. Right. So India has seen such things in last 2 years, especially from different agitation. So managing media, controlling the media should be the part of the government if it helps the society in large. Because in India right now, the control is missing, and the news flashes in a fraction of a second to every part of the country, resulting in a lot of societal stress and war. So that is local. On the global aspect, I think Kashmir, one movie came, Kashmir Files, and people started knowing a little bit of the other side of the. There are so many things which has happened, but it has never come to the Western audience. So I think the government of India, uh, it's only with the this new government and with the Dr. Jaishankar, the Indian Foreign Ministry, or the EAM, they call it, that department has reached out to the Western audience in a slightly different way, but still, I'm not sure if they have that big budget to manage the information technology and media, but they should definitely have some big budget to host New York Times, Washington Post, or the London Times, or the Chinese paper, five or six major power center, or the European Union, call them, give them the briefing in their way, and have their local media, have the somebody in the local media to represent the Indian side of the story. This is what Chinese have done smartly, but they have the money power. But they also understood that this is an important part. Indians are a little behind. I would suggest the government to definitely look into that, because that narrative helps the Indian Americans and the students also to take that government message to the American people, rather than they taking it from Pakistan or centric or Sino Wahhabism, which they call it. That kind of a nexus, their stronghold on the American media, that counter can only be happening through proper investment. And also, one last point is the Hindu American. The Hindu, 90% of the American citizens from Indian origin are Hindus, but nowhere in the jurisprudence, nowhere in any mention, they even recognize this religion. They, in fact, the recently in Connecticut, the local Democrat congressman even facilitated the separatist Khalistani movement in. But they do not understand the word Hindu. They deliberately try to hide 1 billion population of the world. I would say more than 1 billion population, but Hindus are huge in number. There is no mention in a democratic country like India. And you talk about George Orwell. By the way, George Orwell is from my state of Bihar in India. He was born in Champaran. And they keep on quoting George Orwell. They keep on quoting Mother Teresa, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, but no mention of Hinduism. These are so that's like that cannot be allowed with people like us. They have to accept us, recognize us. Otherwise, your whole CRT and wokeism is a fake narrative. You are just trying to cover your past wrongs, whether it's a racism, whether it's a black related crime or the child related crime or the Native American crime. All you're trying to do is you're covering the past. So that cannot be allowed. That will be challenged because the core of the America is liberty, and liberty is not for a person. Liberty is for everybody, for the entire world. Thank you. That's all I had to say.
You talked about the Hindu Americans, and I was doing just a rough calculation published many times that Hindus in the USA are not just from India. They're from Nepal, they're from Bangladesh, Pakistan, they are from other American Hindus who are not from India. So Hindu Americans is a much bigger number, plus a yoga community who is very friendly to India. Entire yoga community, which is almost 60 million. They recognize yoga as coming from India, and they're very thankful to it, including all the therapies. And that's why the Christian groups are opposing in a big way. Anyway, I'll keep it for the next topic, how Christianism is a threat to USA, not an opportunity. We'll talk about it later on. Thank you so much, Sharadji, for coming on the show. And viewers, do check out Sharad Mohan's books. You can see in the back, and you can check him out. Search him as an author on Amazon. You'll see all his books also over there. And if you're in India, they'll be available on bookshelves in India. My books are not on the bookshelves, but his books are on the bookshelves across India. So thank you so much, and thank you for coming on the show on Saturday. Namaste. Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
Yeah.